Well, welcome to the first episode of Take Flight with Dave the Eagles fan. I'm your host, Dave, here with my producer, Kalen. Man, I'm excited to be doing this, bro. It's been a long time coming. Um, Perfect idea brought by Kalen for us to start a YouTube channel here on the Eagles, one of the most entertaining teams in the league. At a great time, I would say, too, because I hate to sound like a Cowboys fan, but this might be our year. We got a really great team, and I'm excited that we can get this done. Bringing two episodes to you a week, normally before the game that week, and also post game as well. So you'll be able to see us a lot. We're going to bring a lot of great information. Um, Long time Eagles fan I am, for over 2 decades, man. About 23 years in. Shoot, that 2000s team with Donovan McNabb, Brian Westbrook, Brian Dawkins, all them boys, man, they really brought me in. And I never looked back. Been a fan for a long time. So I'm excited to do this. Played football essentially my whole life growing up, all the way through high school. I played linebacker. So I plan to give you a lot of intel on what it is that we're seeing, like actually inside the game, as well as what's happening with the team in general. So I think my insight is going to be pretty great. The show is going to be amazing. We're going to give some great content. And with Kaylin's knowledge on this production, everything's just going to be dope, man. So I am really happy. We'll kind of get everything started with Vic Fangio talking about our new defensive coordinator and what it is that he brings to the table. Um, Man, last year the defense was atrocious. Let's just start by saying that, man. They were absolutely terrible. Uh, we had two defense coordinators throughout the year, so that tells you enough. The first DC that we had was first time DC. Then, of course, we bring in Matt Patricia, which you got to love Matty P. Sarcasm, obviously. But we went on a downward slate probably about halfway through the season. We all know started out 10-1, and then it was downhill from there. A lot of that was the defense. I don't know why Nick thought that maybe changing the defense coordinator was going to change the team itself, when really it was like the offense that looked kind of stagnant. But either way, the defense got worse with that change. Um, so what I think Vic brings is, man, his veteran presence, his no BS mentality. If you catch him in any of the interviews, he's very honest, very upfront with how the players are doing, why he's running whatever scheme, like what his intentions are. Like, it's very refreshing. A lot of times you get like these vanilla answers from coaches or even players whenever they ask certain questions, but not from Vic. He's gonna tell you what he's thinking, and then he's gonna tell you what the truth is, man. And so, like I said, it's very refreshing to hear. Whenever I'm thinking about defense, the one of the first things I'm thinking about is our like defensive line. And then so with looking at Vic, uh, hold on, bro. I want to go back to, I guess, like the back to Vic a little bit more before I just dump right into that D line. So I guess this would be an edit point. But when we're looking at Vic, some of the things that I guess I want to focus on are like what type of fronts he's going to run. So whether that's the odd front where that's like five down linemen, or five people up on the line, which normally in this sense is kind of like what people would call a 3-4. So you have the three interior D linemen, and then you have the two outside guys, either standing up or with their hand in the dirt. Um, but that's what he brings with the two middle linebackers. Well, sometimes they'll call them one Mike and one of them a Will. But either way, you got the two linebackers in the middle. You're going to have the two outside edge rushers and the three defensive linemen. And then in our defense, you're looking at Jordan Davis right there in the middle, Jalen Carter, amazing, right there beside him. Probably Milton Williams on the other side of him. And then you got our two edges. So you're probably looking at Bryce Huff and also Josh Sweat, with Nolan Smith, competing for time as well. Of course, MBG. But so those five right there up front with the two middle linebackers as well, that's going to be like our base defense. But something that Vic mentioned just, I want to say a few days ago, maybe last week, but he was just saying that a lot of times now you're in nickel or dime, and nickel normally means you have an extra corner out there, normally that nickel corner, that slot corner, whatever you want to call them. And then with dime, you have another one. So essentially, you're going to have two corners on both sides, the two safeties, and then like one linebacker right there in the middle whenever we're talking about dime. And then, of course, with the nickel, you're going to have the two linebackers in the middle. You're going to have one extra corner like towards the middle, guarding the slot, with, of course, the outside guys, and then two safeties in the back. So he was saying that nickel and dime was being ran essentially about 75 to 85% of the time. Like that almost is your base defense. He's made it a point to say that that nickel corner spot is a starting spot, which it truly is, especially if you're going to be out there like that 75 to 80% of the time anyway, you know. So with that being the case, it's like it looks like he was running about 71% of the time in nickel last year with the Dolphins, which ranks like 12th in the league or whatnot. So that's a lot. That's definitely going to be a lot, man. So that position is going to be very crucial for us. Dom was only about 7% of the time, which is still about 16th ranked in the league last year. So that's like middle of the pack. Normally, he's going to be bringing at least 4 to 6 people each time whenever we're talking about like pressure on passes. So it's like with the 4, that's normal. I mean, everybody's bringing at least 4 people most of the time. Like it's rare that you'll ever see him doing like 3. I think that only happened about 2% of the time last year, which was with the ranking of 25th, so close to the end or whatnot. So that's not what you're going to see most of the time with Vic. You're going to see like 4 to, like I said, 5 or 6 people coming each time. 4 is probably standard. Anything 5 people or more, normally you would consider that a blitz. And then looks like he blitzed about 20% of the time last year, which is also towards the back end of the pack. So to me, that normally means if he's blitzing while bringing 5 or more people, only 20% of the time, then that means most of the time we're probably in man with 2 safeties over the top to kind of, help out. So that way we can, double cover a couple of different people, or we're probably in a zone completely to where we're just kind of sitting back, whether that's cover 3, cover 4, so like, but either way, that's what it looks like he's going to be running most of the time. But also, I think that might be a little different with this defense that we have. And I say that to say a great coach coaches to his players, not just to, oh, this is the scheme, this is what I run, either get in where you fit in or whatever. But more so, it's like, because he doesn't get to shop for the groceries. You know what I mean? He might get to tell Howie, hey, I like this player. I think he said that about Jalen Hunt. Like, hey, I like him. We should draft him or whatnot. So it's like, that's great, but you don't always get to make all the decisions. So the GM is going to bring in whoever he's going to bring in. And quite frankly, Vic inherited this defense. You know what I mean? Like there are a few new players on this team that weren't there last year, but most of the defense is the people that were there last year. So with that being the case, it's like he didn't get to choose them. And I think he's going to do a great job of catering to what it is that they do. And then we have some linebackers who are known for being good at blitzing. Nakobe Dean did it very well in Georgia. We still have yet to see it completely here in the NFL, but he has shown great flashes of being able to do it throughout the preseason. And also, Devin White is known to be a great blitzer. That is his thing. He's even mentioned that he's been trying to showcase it to Vic to show that he can do it. So that way, Vic is calling that a little bit more often. And it seems like lately, over this past week of training camp, he has been increasing that. So I think even though it was 20% last year, whenever it came to the blitz, it might be a little bit more than that this year around. So it's going to be exciting to see. So I think he's going to do a lot of things. Plus, I think we have some great corners who are going to be able to play man, because a lot of times when you're blitzing, most of the time you're going to be a man. So you got to be able to guard your man, because if we don't get home, I mean, hey, it's one-on-one over there. It's mano y mano. And then hopefully we got the guys to be able to step up and do what we do. And quite frankly, I think we do have those guys. So I think we're going to see maybe that blitz go from about 20%, maybe close to 25, 30% or whatnot. So I think it might increase a little bit to get us about middle of the pack. But I think we're going to be seeing odd fronts. And also, like I said, a little bit of increase on the blitzes for sure. But where that all starts is our defensive line, especially if we're talking about being in Philadelphia. Because, I mean, Howie, we believe in the trenches. Anytime we've been really good, which is, at least half the years over the past, couple of decades, we are going to be great in the trenches whenever it comes to the offensive line and also defensive line. So we're always trying to get after the quarterback. And then there's no difference this year. So that's going to be where we start at whenever it comes to how successful this defense is going to be. And I think Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter understand that. Like they understand that, hey, you guys are the guys whenever it comes to the defensive line. Like I said, I mean, we still got Josh Sweat, and then he had a bit of a down year last year in comparison to, the Super Bowl run whenever we had that tremendous amount of sacks that we had. Kellen, do me a favor and get those stats for me exactly on like how many sacks we had back in 2022, if you don't mind. But I know we were sitting there competing with the I think it was the 85 Bears, and then how great they were and with their sacks that year and whatnot. And then of course that took us all the way to the Super Bowl. So I think that it's all still going to start with the defensive line. Shout out to Howie for having the foresight of knowing that we weren't going to get a contract done with Hassan Reddick. So let's go ahead and move up off of that and then try to get what we can. Obviously, we can see that that's the Jets' problem now. You know what I mean? So like that's not something that we have to deal with. Um, yes, and we had 70 sacks. It was 70 sacks in 22, a tremendous amount of sacks. So I think we took a really big plunge this past year in comparison. I think we had around 50 sacks or so. So it's like huge difference. So it's definitely going to start there more than anything. And then so with Jalen Carter and Jalen Davis, man, I'm sorry, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Um, okay. So we had 64 sacks this past year. So in comparison to no, hold on, my bad, bro.
No,
All
sorry.
right,
That's
yeah,
the
for
85.
the 85 Bears.
Yeah,
Okay,
the 85 Bears at
so we
65
passed them
sacks.
up technically.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you. All right. I don't know how you're gonna chop this, but I believe in you. But yeah, so we ended up with 70 sacks in 22 in comparison to the 64 sacks that the 85 Bears had. And a tremendous amount of sacks. I know we were playing one more game in comparison to the Bears at that time, but just being able to create that amount of pressure and get to the quarterback as much as we did, man, it was truly a big difference. So that's what it's going to take this year, because I think that's essentially always what it takes, especially when we're talking about playing in the playoffs or playing in the Super Bowl. Possibly, you're going to play some elite quarterbacks, and you're going to have to get them off their spot. You can't expect for us to beat a elite quarterback by giving him time back there to pass and dissect us. In all honesty, we've seen Dak do that a ton of times against us. I believe that Dak is not clutch whatsoever, but he always plays pretty well against the Eagles. And then a lot of times he'll just tear us apart if we can't get to him. And that's essentially what all elite quarterbacks will do. So getting those sacks is going to be imperative. And then so I do think that it is going to start with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. First off, Jalen Carter is a huge stud. I think his floor for this year is to be a Pro Bowler. Like he is that elite. The league really messed up by allowing us to get him in the draft last year. Man, that was really crazy. They allowed him to fall to us just a little bit, and we traded up to go get him. And that was one of the best decisions how we could have made. So I think with having him, but he only played at 563 snaps last year. And then last year, Christian Wilkins in Vic's system last year played 894 snaps. Man, you're looking at over 330 snaps more than what Jalen Carter played. And Jordan Davis only played 519. So, I mean, you're looking at almost 380 more snaps than what Jordan Davis played. So they have to be a lot more conditioned. They have to be there because we're going to need them to stop the run. We're going to have to try to put offenses in a predictable situation where they have to pass. Now our pass rushers can go ahead and just pin their ears back and get off to the quarterback. It's like you don't have to think about it as much. You can just go. It's like third and long. They obviously pass it. Let's go. So it's like putting ourselves in advantageous situations is what's going to make us successful. And then so those two guys being ready to go all year. Last year, it seemed like Jalen Carter kind of hit that rookie wall, which a lot of people hit, because at the end of the day, this is the first time they've ever played this amount of games in a season. Normally in college, like even if we're talking about like with the college playoff and getting to the championship game and things like that, I mean, you might be looking at 14 games. You know what I mean? Maybe. So like it's normally not a ton of games, but they're talking about at least 17 games this year or every year. And if you get into the playoffs, you're looking at even more than that, potentially 20 games or so. So it's like it's understandable that he kind of hit that wall, but you were definitely expecting this year for that to not be the case. And with Jordan Davis, man, it was just him not being in shape. Because that was year 2 for him. He has mentioned multiple times this offseason that no one's coming to save them. Like they have a true understanding that, hey, we are the defensive line. This is who we have. And then it's funny to hear him say that phrase, or more so, it makes sense on why he keeps saying that, is because his rookie year was 22 whenever we went to the Super Bowl, and they literally brought in someone, two people actually. You had Linval Joseph and you had Ndamukong Suh. Like literally two DTs they brought in who were getting some time throughout their playoffs, getting us to that Super Bowl run as well. So, and I think a lot of the reasons why Howie had brought them in because of the fact that Jordan Davis wasn't really, kind of truly being what it is that we needed him to be just yet. Granted, he was a rookie, but he was a first round rookie, top 20 pick. So normally with those guys, you're expecting them to play. But I do think that his cardio was an issue then. It was kind of an issue last year. I still remember the play whenever he chased down Josh Allen and did his thing going to get him. Like great play. It's like, oh my gosh, bro, the dancing bear, he was moving. But I think there's a potential of us getting that amazing player, but also getting a guy who's like, he breathing, he's just leaning on guys, like taking a double team, and it's like, they kind of washed me out. Like that's if that's the guy that we're getting, then we got to make another move next year in the draft because it's like it's okay for you to be a decent player, but whenever you're drafting somebody's top 20 in the first round, you're hoping that you're drafting a Pro Bowler. You know what I mean? A perennial Pro Bowler, someone that you're going to see there very often or whatnot. Someone who can, and at the DT spot, if you draft them that high, you're hoping that they can rush the passer a little bit as well. And I think, man, he ran a 40 in the combine. I think he ran like a 4.8, but dude's like 340 pounds. like he is huge. I want to say he's like 6'6", 6'7", but he is huge. So it's like seeing him move that quick and him being that athletic is, I think, what led for us to draft him that high. So now we know you can stop the run because you're a big guy. You're going to plug up a hole for sure. But if you can stay in shape and have the energy all the way throughout the season, then it's like not only will you be stopping the run because you're going to plug those holes, but now you're going to move guys a little bit more. I think he needs to be in the top 15, top 20 whenever it comes to tackles for loss for us to like really be great. Like I have no doubt that Jalen Carter will make sure that he is top 10 in tackles for loss. I also think he's going to get anywhere from about 9 to 12 sacks from the interior spot. Like he is truly that dynamic. Like I was mentioning earlier, I think his floor, Jalen Carter we're talking about, I think his floor is Pro Bowl. Like I absolutely expect him to be an all pro as well this year. And I think he will be like top 5 in defensive player of the year. I do truly believe that he's that good. He is the new Aaron Donald. Like I think he's going to be one of the best DTs in the league this year. Like be excited about Jalen Carter because I know I am. But that's a little bit enough about the interior D line, man. What are we going to do on the outsides? We allowed for Josh Sweat to have an opportunity to go out there and see if he can find a trade, and it doesn't look like we really had a market for him. So I don't know what exactly we're going to get from Josh Sweat, and I think that's going to be a huge question mark. We haven't heard a bunch of things throughout training camp. Like at least you want to hear a few flashes, and then I heard some a little bit more recently. But I'm also hearing a lot more whenever he's going up against the twos, more than against, Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. But also, I just named Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, So those are two of some of the best tackles that are in the league, man. Absolutely, especially the fact for Lane Johnson. I mean, that's an all pro right there. So it's like it's tough, but iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not going to be going up against someone that's top 5 in their position every week. So I absolutely expect to see plays made by Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat. Excuse me. So because there's no reason for them to not be successful going up against someone this good every day. But we just got to see it. With Bryce Huff, he only played, 480 snaps. He played less than Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Yeah, he was on the Jets, so he wasn't on our team. But either way, it's like 480 snaps. You had Bradley Chubb in the Dolphins defense last year, playing 836 snaps. Bro, that's almost double his snaps. Like that's a lot of snaps. Now, granted, here in Philly, we like to rotate our guys, especially on the defensive line. That's why we build in the trenches so much so we can keep guys fresh. But he's definitely going to be expected to play with a lot more than 480 snaps. Like that number should easily be well in the 600s, if not 700. It's going to be higher. So with that being the case, we need to see because he was mainly only doing third downs for the Jets. He was mainly just pass rushing. He led the Jets in sacks though, so he did his thing. I mean, for only playing 480 snaps, man, and then leading your team in sacks is tremendous. But now we got to make sure you can stop the run and also get after the quarterback. It was weird that he was actually like one of the only like presumed starters, especially on the defensive line that was playing in that second preseason game. And then, it looked a little weird because it's like, do they not really believe in him? Because mind you, in that second week, we were doing he did the what you call the practice, joint practice. I am drawing a blank. But yeah, we did the joint practice with the Patriots. And then so normally they like to utilize our joint practice days as like really great competition for the ones. So the ones normally don't play at all in those preseason games. So the fact that he was out there, Vic talked about that the next day. And once again, gotta love Vic because he's gonna be blunt, he's gonna be honest. He said, man, honestly, we're getting him out there because he's playing a new position. He's not doing the exact same things that he was being asked to do when he was with the Jets. Now he's been asked to drop back. Now he's being asked to stop the run a lot more. It's like this is his way to show the team, the coaches that he can do this, and also just man for himself. You know what I mean? It's like because Bryce Huff had mentioned himself that he was glad he was able to get those reps and just kind of showcase what it is that he could do. So it didn't seem like he had a problem with doing it. So it was great to see, man, because like I said, Vic is an old school coach, and at the end of the day, bro, practice makes perfect. So I'm glad we was able to see him kind of being out there and doing it a little bit more, especially against the Patriots because they were playing their starters. So all the success he was having early on was actually against their ones. I know the Patriots aren't expected to be good, but it was still nice to see it. So I think, man, that's what we're looking at with the D line. I really hope Nolan Smith makes a really big jump. Okay, he's going to be one of our wild cards, I think, because if you get a great Nolan year, man, because Josh Sweat is in his last year. I mean, and I think Howie would have no problems with letting him go if Nolan takes that huge step up to where it's like, okay, perfect. This can be our guy, one of our cornerstone pass rushers going forward. I mean, at the end of the day, he was a first round pick. Yeah, it was towards the end of the first round of last year, but either way, first round pick. I mean, so last year wasn't the best year. He didn't play as much. He had a small percentage of the snaps for sure. Matter of fact, he only played 188 snaps last year, which is really nothing. He was kind of just getting in there in garbage time, especially towards the end of the year. But he had a sack, man. He showed some flashes. But this offseason, he's been showing a lot more flash. He's been getting to the quarterback a little bit more. So we're definitely going to see what comes with that. Same with Jalen Hunt being a third round pick. I think expectations are low, so you can't expect too much. But he's flashing a lot more than everyone was expecting. I think from what I was hearing or what I expected was that you're going to get a lot more highs and lows. It was coming from Houston Christian University. I mean, how many of y'all have heard of Houston Christian University? You know what I mean? So it's like that's the type of talent that he was playing against, but he balled. Here's my thing. If we're going to grab someone from a small school, make sure they were balling. You can't be playing average at a small school because it's like, all right, if you're just so there, what are you going to do against better talent? You know what I mean? So, like, if you are going to grab from those markets, from those schools, please make sure that they were dominating. And that was something that he was doing. So, I'm excited to see what he has because he looks a little bit less than like a project than I expected. I definitely thought it was going to be like a project. Like, okay, dude used to play safety, and he's transitioning to. I think he transitioned to linebacker. Then it was defensive end. So it's like, wait, defensive end. He used to play safety, but it's great because you're bringing in that athleticism, and you can tell during the training camp games. I mean, the preseason games, and also in training camp that he's dropping in coverage a lot from that outside rusher position, and he looks very fluid doing it, which he should. I mean, he was a safety, but just watching a guy that big from that spot dropping back with no problems is beautiful to see. Because most of the times, whenever you have a edge rusher, a la Bryce Huff, you're asking them to drop back. They're doing something they're not used to doing. You want me to go backwards? I'm used to going to get the quarterback. So like watching Jalix drop back and then have success with it, or even like whenever he is rushing the passer or whatnot, we've hearing in practice that he's getting to the quarterback. He's getting some presumed sacks. There's no touching the quarterback in practice, but he's getting the presumed sacks and things like that. So I think this year was supposed to be a project year for him. He might get a little bit more burned than expected, but I'm hoping that we can see him out there more than 188 snaps like Nolan played last year. It's like, get that man some burn. So I think if he is getting north of the 188, then that means we are actually getting a better return out of this third round pick than we expected. So I'm excited to see what the D line has to bring. Last, Milton Williams. I do think that Milton, this is his year. You know what I mean? He is in a contract year. I'm thinking that he probably does not want to sign for anything right now, just because I think he is trying to prove that he is legitimately a starter. And then in this defense, in that base formation, he is one of the starters. It's going to be Jordan Davis, Jalen Carton, Milton Williams as those interior three right there. So it's like, I want to see how well he does, because he's probably the guy that's coming off the field whenever we move to nickel, whenever we move to dime, because you still want to have your two edge rushers. You know what I mean? So if you're just doing four people, which, like we said, four down rush, that was 78% of the time. That was third most last year that Vic ran with four down linemen. So that's probably going to be Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis if he can get after the passer. If not, he'll be swapped out with Milton Williams, and then you're going to have those two edge rushers. So it's like, we got to see what Jordan Davis does and also Milton Williams. I think those are going to be some important pieces right there in the middle. But man, after talking about the defensive line for about 25 minutes, I do want to kind of move on to the linebackers, man. Like this is obviously my bread and butter, and this is what I played, man. This is my group, and I think it's gonna make a huge difference. Last year, I would say we kind of punted whenever it came to the linebackers and whenever it came to the safeties. Like I think how we kind of he tried to move back a little bit more towards the mean this year in comparison to last year. I mean, I know we wanted to sign CJGJ, but the contract situation didn't really work out the way it did. So we pivoted. But either way, last year, man, whenever it came to linebacker and safety, those areas was just kind of like, hey, this will do. Let's see how it goes. And if you look at the 2 years that we went to the Super Bowl over these past 7 years, so back in 2017 and also 2022, we had good linebacker play and we had good safety play. So I think that's going to make a huge difference if we're talking about being successful. So like the linebackers we had in 2017, Jordan Hicks, Nigel Bradham, Michael Kendricks. Like, I mean, we had them dudes. Even Nate Gary coming off the bench, bro. Like we had guys playing linebacker and they were playing successfully. Like in 22, we had TJ Edwards and Kazir White. Matter of fact, Nakobe Dean barely even played in 22 because of the fact that how great TJ and Kazir were balling. And yeah, I'm naming two linebackers because, like Vic mentioned, we was in nickel most of the time anyway. We weren't running three linebackers. You know what I mean? It was like either we had four down linemen, the two linebackers, and then a nickel corner, or shoot, we was running the five set up front, where it was the three DTs, the two outside edge rushers, and then so just the two linebackers in the middle. So with having those great linebacker play, that normally led to us stopping the run, getting 70 sacks. You know what I mean? So it's like, as we stop in the run, and then we can play the pass, be able to pin your ears back and do everything. Like, I truly believe that linebacker spot needs to be good. Last year, we were below average. Those are some of the worst linebackers I've seen in the league. Matter of fact, one of the linebackers that we ended up with, we ended up getting them on our team, I want to say probably a week, maybe 2 weeks before our first game of the season. And then he was on the streets. I'm not saying he was, a trash man or nothing like that, but at the end of the day, he wasn't on anybody's team. He wasn't at anybody's camp, so it's like with having guys like that, with having guys that were maybe on the practice squad the year before, like I think the goal was, okay, with having the Kobe Dean, but this year he's going to step in and he's going to be the starter. And that was what was expected. But then he got hurt. So it's like as he got hurt, he didn't play as much. Now we're sitting there with a couple of linebackers who it was hard to win with. I mean, because at the end of the day, there was I need the linebackers from last year, Kayla. Yeah, but yeah, so like because one of the guys we brought in, he ended up retiring. We brought in two linebackers with a couple of weeks before the season started, and then one of them decided to retire. I think we had it was Miles Jack, and then another guy. The other guy's the one who ended up playing all year, and he played decently.
You had Nicholas Morrow started 12
Yes,
games.
yes.
Yeah, Zach Cunningham started 10
Zach
games.
Cunningham. There we go. They had brought in Zach Cunningham and Miles Jack. Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham were brought in a couple of weeks before the season started. The competition was in between the two of them. We're going to see who was going to be starting. We thought essentially by Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean got hurt. Zach Morrow ended up being one of the people who stepped in that starting linebacker spot. Trash. He played basically all year, had a couple flashes here and there, but trash. They were terrible. And then the fact that, like I said, give me the other guy one more time.
It was Nicholas Morrow and Zach
Cunningham.
Cunningham.
Thank you. And then so Cunningham had flashes too. Howie even mentioned that he thought that Cunningham had a pretty good season at the end of last year. I don't know what he was watching, but what I like about Howie is he's not the type to be like, nope, nope, nope. This is what I decided. We're just gonna keep rocking with it, even though he see that it's going left. Because he did try to bring in Darius Leonard. Like I remember when we were competing with the Cowboys, and everybody was like, "All right, which team is he gonna pick? Which team is he gonna go to?" And let's be honest, he picked us, which was great. He was not the Darius Leonard of old. He came in and he was just as trash. But I like the fact that Howie realized that he made a mistake on that position and that he brought in somebody new, trying to improve it. No, it didn't end up working, but I like the effort. You know what I mean? Don't be stuck in your ways. Nope, this is what I decided. We're just going to rock with it. I hate that. If you see that the evidence changes, it's okay to change your opinion. So I see that we realized that this linebacker core is not good. So he tried to bring in somebody who we thought could possibly be good. And he was a little bit past his prime. I don't think he's with anybody this year. I don't know if he's retired officially yet, but he probably should. But this year, I think he's improved on that position. Not tremendously, but a little bit. Number one, you bring in my boy, Devin White. So Devin White, man, he was amazing with LSU. Did his thing. Came right into the league with Tampa Bay. Was doing his thing. Him and Levante David over there was a tremendous linebacker core for about 3 years, and they helped win that Super Bowl for Tom Brady. I think that whole playoff run you saw Devin White making plays, like whether it was an interception, tackle for loss, a sack, whatever it was, dude was making plays. Sideline to sideline speed is tremendous, and he's always looking to hit somebody. Always. That's exactly what you want from your linebacker, your middle linebacker specifically. You want someone who's a playmaker, you want someone who's a headhunter, and you want a leader. And I think he's all of those things. Obviously, he had a down year last year. He spoke about it a little bit earlier on whenever we first brought him in and he got interviewed and everything. And he talked about it was a contract year, but before then, he was expecting to get compensated. That's what the message was from the team and his conversations. And then all of a sudden, the conversation changed. And they were talking about how, well, you know what? I think we're just going to exercise, like your fifth year option instead of, like doing a contract or whatnot. And I think that really kind of threw him for a loop because that wasn't the conversation they were having early on. And then he had mentioned that this year he wants to focus more on football because he felt like he was more of an agent last year than a football player. So I think with that kind of threw off his focus, which kind of leads to, not playing as well. He also mentioned on the podcast, The Pivot, with Ryan Clark and them, that he was hurt for a lot of the season. And then Todd Bowles came to him. He said Todd Bowles was like a father figure to him. But Todd mentioned to him that, hey, if you're hurt, man, we're gonna have to get you out of there, just because it's like I'm calling the defense expecting you to be able to do X, Y, and Z because that's what I know that you can do. But if you're limited, then you're gonna hurt us a little bit, because now you can't get to this play, or you're not gonna be able to get to this mark as expected, which is gonna, make us fall back as a defense. Because one of the phrases we used to always like to use while playing is do your 111. I mean, there's 11 players out there on defense, 11 players out there on offense. We will be the most successful when everybody does their job. When you try to overdo or you try to do somebody else's job and things like that, that's whenever we tend to mess up. Or if you're lacking and you can't even do your job, that's once again when the team messes up. It is literally the ultimate team game. So, with that being mentioned, White was like, okay, bet. So he stepped back, and he had even mentioned that some people in the organization was expecting him to come back a little bit faster than he was actually capable of, and things like that. So he felt like that kind of ruffled some feathers as well. So he was saying that, like, oh, whenever he got benched, it was more so that he was kind of hurt and things like that. So I just think that this is a comeback season for this guy. Like he is super excited to be with this team. He would like to be here long term, from what he had mentioned in one of the interviews. But of course, he doesn't want to focus on the contracts right now. He wants to focus on being great, and then letting that just kind of come to play later on. But he was mentioning that he wants to be one of those great Eagles linebackers that we used to have in the past. Like it's not, or he understands that the Eagles have not had that for a long time. Like he wants to be the Jeremiah Trotter Sr. Like he wants to be that guy that, like I said, we hadn't had. He wants to be those guys that we named off during those Super Bowl runs that we had. It's like he wants to be the catalyst of that. And I'm hoping that he can be. Like, I'm very bullish on Devin White. I'm expecting him to have a great comeback year because we saw him dominate in college. We saw him coming into the league immediately dominating. I think he was came in around the same time as Fred Warner, who's been dominating for the 49ers. I think he has that same type of game to him, but of course we need to see it consistently. He's been healthy so far, so I don't see a reason why he can't bring back what it was he was doing with Tampa Bay early on. So that is exactly what I'm expecting. I think he's going to be that guy. I think, like I mentioned earlier, our blitzes will go up, or Vic's blitzes will go up a little bit more, because that is something that he does pretty great. He's going to get up in there. He is going to put some pressure onto the quarterback. He's going to get through a lot of those blocks by the running back. I don't know. I think he's going to be really successful. I think the question is who's going to be playing beside him. So we've seen kind of early on into training camp that Zach Bond has been starting right beside him in both the preseason games. Excuse me. At a lot of the practices, he's running with the ones. So, and which was crazy because when Zach Bond came in, everyone was expecting him to be a pass rusher. That's mainly what he did whenever he was with New Orleans. And also, he didn't play as much last year anyway. I think Zach Bond's snaps, he played like 301 snaps. He was a backup for New Orleans and whatnot. And New Orleans wasn't that great last year. Their defense is normally decent, but I mean, they weren't amazing. They weren't even like gangbusters. So I mean, but either way, he was showing that he could pass rush and then play a little bit off ball. I think he played off ball linebacker more so in college, but we definitely thought he was going to be a pass rusher coming in. He has not gotten a snap at practice at the outside linebacker position. He hasn't pass rushed once. So Vic mentioned early on when he was asked about the linebackers. This is very early, and Zach Bond was one of the first people that he mentioned, saying that, well, I haven't seen any reason why he can't play the off ball linebacker position. He hasn't showed us that he couldn't. So I mean, we're going to continue to assume that he can until he shows that he can't. And he's been playing that position so much. But once the game started, the first thing I noticed in that first preseason game was he just wasn't making plays. It was like he was coming down to the line, just getting washed away, hitting the wrong gap maybe. Granted, no, I don't know what the play call is, but I can kind of see where the flow of the offense is going, where the defense should be flowing, what holes you should be flowing to. And it was like just seeing him take on the linebackers, I mean the offensive line and things like that. He just wasn't making the plays. And then I was seeing the holes being created for the running backs for them to bounce on out. Like literally the first drive of the first game, I was just like, against Baltimore, and they was definitely playing their twos and their threes. There was no Lamar, no starting offensive line, no King Henry. It was regular guys, and Bond did not look that great. And I was like, what is this? And then slowly but surely, we've seen Nakobe Dean become that Nakobe Dean we were hoping to see. And I tell you this, I would be shocked if Zach Bond wins that starting position over Nakobe Dean. What I'm thinking is happening right now is Nakobe Dean has been running with the twos so often because I think he's also technically like the backup Mike behind Devin White. So, because normally they have one Mike and they have one Will, even though, like I said, it's only two linebackers, and they're both in the middle. One's still a Mike, the other one is still a Will linebacker, which is like the weak side linebacker. But normally that Mike wears the green dot for us. So it's like they're the ones that are talking to the coaches, to the DC and everything like that, giving out the plays and everything, making sure the defensive line and the safeties and corners, everyone is on the same page with the play. And I think that Nakobe has been running with the twos in order for him to have the practice to do this. You know what I mean? Just in case, hey, you're not out there with Devin White gets hurt or he's not playing, whatever. Give Nakobe that position to be able to still run that and do that. And I'm saying that to say, especially over these past couple of weeks, because right now we're looking at August 21st. When I say since August 7th, Nakobe Dean's name has been in every beat writer's mouth for making plays, man. We talking about tips, interceptions, tackles for loss, man, just hustling. Like when you watch him in the preseason games, man, he jumps off the tape. Like he jumps off the screen. You could just tell. I remember there was a play against the Patriots. All right, so bro's on a blitz. He gets back there, boom. He's right there in the quarterback's face, but quarterback gets the pass off. Mind you, he was in the backfield in front of the quarterback. Then he busts out towards the sideline because it was like a screen pass to the right. He busts out to the sideline. First off, the running back or the receiver, whoever it was, he makes Bradbury miss, which is another topic that I will definitely touch. But he makes Bradbury miss, trash ass. He killing me. But he makes him miss. But then he also makes Jeremiah Trotter Jr. miss. And all of a sudden, Nakobe just comes in, cleans up the play. I think it was only like a 5-yard game. Of course, he trying to make a couple dudes miss. But Nakobe was just in the quarterback's face, like, creating that pressure. And then all of a sudden, hauls ass to the sideline and makes the tackle to clean it up. I'm like, okay, dude, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it reminds me of a lot of a play that I saw when he was in Georgia. Matter of fact, I think it was the championship game where he was like running down the sideline or running towards the sideline when it was like a receiver that was like in motion that got the ball and the dude was running with him. Like, I mean, a lot of times you talk to like you want to stay like within their inside hip so that way you don't give them a two-way go whenever you get to them. So that way if you stay inside, they can only go outside. So which is perfect. And that's exactly what he did. And he was looking so fast, man, because the dude he was trying to get to was a slot. And the slot receivers are normally super quick. I mean, sometimes they're going to be super fast, but most of the time they're always quick because they have two-way goes most of the time. So it's like the fact that he was running all the way over there, he was able to cut that off. That's exactly what I felt like we were going to be getting when we drafted him in the first place. So seeing him do it in the preseason game was magnificent, man. Chef's kiss, bro. I'm excited to see this. I'm thinking that we didn't see it the years before because he was hurt. And then also, like I said, his rookie year, we had Kaiser White and TJ Edwards balling. And I think we lost, 4 games that year in 2022. So it's like we were doing a lot of winning. We were trying to make sure we got the first seed because, you only one team gets a bye in each conference. And I think that was important for us to get. And because of that, they weren't playing the young players like that, which I hate. And I wish we would have been able to see that a little bit more from them. But unfortunately, that was like a red shirt year for him his rookie year. And then last year, he was hurt. I think he only played in a few games. Man, he only had 182 snaps. Man, I want to say I think he played in like less than 6 games. So this is the year. You're healthy for the most part during training camp. You're making plays. You're showing what you can do. And like I mentioned, whenever we were playing the Patriots, that week, we had the joint practice. He was starting during the joint practice. It was him and it was Devin White, and he was balling. He was making plays. He was doing his thing. The question with Nakobe is still what he does in the pass game. That's not his best attribute, but he's great at stopping the run. He's kind of small, but he's a thumper. Like he reminds me a lot of like London Fletcher. Used to be number 59 for the Washington Redskins at the time. And he wore number 59 because he was only 5'9". So it was like a small, compact guy that's a thumper. And it's great because back then when London Fletcher was playing, it was like running backs were really big. Running backs were getting paid more than like a lot of the receivers at that time or whatnot. But now it's more of a finesse game. So like London Fletcher was 5'9", but he was super stocky. So Nakobe Dean is kind of small too, but he's slighter in build, but he's faster. And then I think that works a little bit better with them running so much spread, like, to where we're only gonna have, like I said, two linebackers in the game. It's not like 4-3 where it's like three backers back there, trying to stop the run as much. So it's like with him being a little bit smaller, I think he'll be able to move around a little bit better in space. But that's still our main question for him whenever he's like playing man. So I'm hoping we don't see him in too many man situations whenever we're on defense. I think we'd be better off utilizing him to blitz during the pass, or more so kind of playing in a zone, because I think he's very instinctive, very smart. He trusts his eyes, and normally the eyes are, going to tell you where the ball is going. And then the type of guy he is, he's extremely prepared, very much like Reed Blankenship. And I'll get to the safeties later, but those guys who kind of lack a little bit of athleticism, lack a little bit of size. I mean, that's kind of how I was, man. It was like I'm the undersized linebacker, and I wasn't super fast, but what I was instinctive. It was like I knew what was going on. And then by knowing ahead of time, you move faster. I react quicker. And those are the exact same things I think we're getting from Nakobe Dean. So Nakobe, taking off the way that he is, no way in the world, in my opinion, Zach Bond should be starting over him. So I think we're going to be having Nakobe Dean and Devin White at the linebacker spots, which is going to be exactly what it is that we need. That kind of gets us back to where we used to be. I don't think that we're going to have top 5, even top 10 linebacker core, but I think we can get in the top 15. Because last year I'm pretty sure we was probably 25th, 30th, 32, maybe the 32nd. We might have been last. Like the linebackers were terrible. So I think we're going to be good there. Don't forget, we also got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's shown flashes, but at the end of the day, he was a fifth-round pick. So the expectations, I think, should still be low. I don't expect him to be starting at any point this year. If he does, then it could be one or two things. Either these linebackers we just been talking about really did not pan out at all, or he's flashing a lot more than we expect. So, but I don't expect him to be starting. I do think he'll get a lot of playing time. He plays a lot of great special teams. So I think with great special teams play, we'll maybe get him a little bit more playing time to kind of get in from time to time. I'm hoping it doesn't end up being a year like it was for Nakobe his rookie year, where he just barely played really at all. So I'm hoping that he gets a little bit more playing time than Nakobe got his rookie year, but we'll definitely see. But I do think that the linebacker position is one where Howie noticed that, hey, last year I think we kind of punted on this, and we brought in a really crappy linebacker group, so let's improve on that. And I think we have. Man, so next I want to touch on the corners. And I don't think I've ever said this at all. We actually got some good corners. Bro, we got some good corners, bro. It's been forever since I could be able to say this. I remember dudes being toasted, roasted, and just laughed at, bro, for the longest by anybody, by whoever. Like it's garbage. But like last year was really terrible. Like in 22, going to the Super Bowl, you had Slay on one side, Bradbury on the other side. Great, I know this is the same group we had last year, but we definitely saw Bradbury fall off that cliff. I mean, you go from all pro to what the hell? Like, it was really crazy, bro. It was wild. I definitely think he's cooked. Nothing against him. I just don't think that his game is at the level where you need it as for a starting corner, and that's obvious from him. Obviously, not even playing corner anymore. He's been moved to safety. But last year that was where we lacked a lot. Kalen, where was the stat you were talking about with the the DBs and the penalties last year? I'm gonna say it was like
Yeah. So in 2022, the DBs accounted for about just one in every fifth penalty, but last year it was about 36% of the team's penalties came from the
sheesh.
defensive backs, and um, top five penalized group and excuse me, they were top five penalized for defensive pass interference. But in 2022, only one team was penalized less than the Eagles for pass interference. So yeah, definitely not locked in from the
At
defensive back.
all.
Yeah, and then also one more is 30% of the penalties the Eagles had came on third downs. Uh,
Mm,
Pretty bad.
motor chains. Yeah, man. I'm like you said, 30 what percent on third down?
30% of the team's
Thirty
penalties
percent.
came on third downs.
So a third of the time we're getting penalties, they coming on third down on crucial downs where we can get off the field. We're getting off the field. All of a sudden, now the offense gets the ball, but no, we get to allow them to continue their drives. That's crazy. I mean, because you said we were basically the second least in penalties in 22 whenever it came to our DBs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then last year was a bunch of grabbing.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of it was a bunch of out of place. Like I got to make something happen. It's better than them scoring a touchdown. Like what is going on, bro? Like, and I think Bradbury is one of those grabbers. Don't forget how I'm not gonna blame the Super Bowl loss on Bradbury, but he did not help us towards the end. Mister, I'm gonna grab Juju Smith Schuster because he just got me on this little in and out. And then now they got to convert to, once again, on third down. On third down, where we can get off the field, lead them to a field goal, have a chance where we still got a couple of our timeouts and over a minute left in the game. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I don't know, besides Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if there's any other quarterback that's more clutch than Jalen Hurts. There were so many close games that we had last year where Jalen was able to pull those out. This was like before we went on that slide towards the negatives, but pulling out those games where we were losing to Buffalo, to Patrick Mahomes and them, just to whoever, bro. I want to say even like the Cowboys, but it was a lot of games. It was a lot of games. But Jalen is clutch. So in that Super Bowl when Bradbury grabbed, and it's just like, oh, bro. Basically, we gave the offense no time to do anything. And I think that was just the start of what Bradbury was going to look like the next year. Like, because we said 36% of our penalties came from the DBs, So I'm like that's wild, So like, I think that was a lot of grabbing, a lot of out of position, a lot of I don't really know what I'm doing, and I think a lot of that had to do with the DCs that we had in at the time. But now with Vic, I think that the DBs are just kind of set up in a better place. And shout out to Howie, because my man had that ski mask on all offseason. He was robbing them. How we end up with the two of the top four corners in the draft, getting the number one guy, and also getting Cooper DeJean, who I think kind of fell a little bit due to his injury. So we end up with two guys who will probably both be our starters. Maybe not this season, but next season for sure. We're gonna have two starters right there. So it's like, how we being able to do that? How we also got Isaiah Rodgers after he was sitting there, he got in trouble for gambling. Excuse me. And when you get cut from a team, you go through what's called waivers. So it's like all 32 teams, well, I'm sorry, I guess all 31 teams that are left after one team cuts them, all 31 teams has a chance to grab that person. If the person in the waiver wire ahead of them decides not to grab them, you didn't have a chance. Then the next team, then the next team, he went through all of those teams. Nobody decided to grab him, but the Eagles reach out to his agent and then decide to go, hey, we're going to bring you in on the team. Obviously, you're suspended for a year, so you can't actually interact with the team. You can't be here on the facilities, like anything like that, but you are a part of the team. He goes all off season and he sets up a schedule to mimic the same schedule he was doing back when he played with the Colts. It's like, okay, on these days, I'm working on this. On these days, I'm working on this. On these days, we're doing film. On these days, I lift. On these days I rest. Whatever, the same thing that they were doing in the league, he was doing. So that way he could be prepared. And the sentiment that's been going around all offseason is he does not look like he's been out for a year. That's not what he looks like. He's been balling. Bro's been doing his thing. And so once again, how we doing his thing when it comes to the corners? We have not had this type of depth whenever it came in the corner, and I don't know how long. I remember, and shout out to Jalen Mills, still being in the league and kind of doing his thing or whatnot. Gotten a couple contracts, but Jalen Mills early on, he was part of that Super Bowl team in 2017, but early on it was just like, it's like Rasul Douglas also had a great career after he left with us. But when we had him and Jim Schwartz had us running man and Rasul Douglas not being a great man corner was getting toasted, roasted, and burnt. That's just what it was. You know, we also drafted Sidney Jones after being hurt and then grabbing him in the second round thinking, oh, we got to steal. No, he stole from us. You know what I mean? It was like, and then also, I still remember whenever we had Nnamdi Asomugha taking him from the taking him from the Raiders, thinking, okay, man, yeah, he brought the ball. He was part of that dream team. Shout out to Vince Young, sorry ass. But yeah, bro, like he was part of that team. It came in and stole money. Was stealing money with the best of them. I remember Maxwell that we grabbed from the Seahawks. He was on the other side of Richard Sherman doing his thing in that little cover three over there, helping them win Super Bowls. Came to us. Obviously, we're not using them the same way. It had to be something like that. Very much like the Namdi situation. Now he's stealing money. It's like, what are we doing? I remember we brought in Orlando Scandrick just a little bit a few years back, bro. Came in, he had to be the ops, bro. Like, obviously, he used to play for Dallas, but in that Dallas game, bro, he was giving a booty. He didn't care about nothing. He was just gonna let us do whatever. Or my bad, he was just gonna let them do whatever. So it's like I've seen us have bad corners
Not
year after
Nnamdi
year.
Asomugha was an All Pro corner with the Raiders every year. As soon as he went to the Eagles, he was out of the league like 2 years later.
Bro, what?
Spent
Bro
time
made
with your
Kerry
man, Kerry
Washington.
Washington.
Bro, thank you. Yes, he made Kerry Washington said, "I'm good, bro. Like we good now."
Oh,
Hey, but I
good.
did get that check. Like them checks still coming through.
Oh
I
man.
got X amount guaranteed. Shoot, I mean, hey, if it go left, it go left. Like you still got that scandal money, right? All right, man, we good, we good. So it's like, bro, robbing us, bro. All pro, all them years is wild. I didn't even know that. That just, I think the only corner we had that we had brought in from somewhere else that was like balling, Asante Samuels. Bro was a dog. He was a dog. Shout out to Asante, bro. And shout out to his son. I hope he does well over there with the Chargers. I think it is. But the corner position is has been a it's been one that has kind of disappointed us year after year. Howie, for some reason, would not draft corners in the first round. So it's always like second round, third round corners, people he hoping could do it, or people who was, like I said, signing. Like, okay, well, we see that they can be good, so let's bring them in over here and not utilize them the way that they were being used at the last place. So it was refreshing to see him draft two corners, sign Isaiah Rodgers, giving him a chance, and him coming in and actually absolutely being great. And then us having Darius Slay. My bad, I'm talking about people who came in from other teams. Like Slay, my bad. He likes to go by Slay, so we're gonna call him Slay. So Slay's been balling since we got him. Essentially, been a Pro Bowler every year we've had him. Shout out to Slay. I don't expect Slay to be top five corner like that lockdown guy. I mean, he's one of the oldest corners in the league still, but he's still efficient. He still claims to be one of the fastest. My bad. He claims to be the fastest guy on the team. I actually think Isaiah Rodgers is that guy. But either way, it's like the fact that he thinks that he moves that quickly still is a great thing for us. You know, so I think having a guy like that who at this point we don't actually need him to travel because of the depth that we have at corner, because of how great Quinyon Mitchell has been since he's came in. Also, we have Avonte Maddox. Avonte Maddox has been our starting nickel corner. And like we mentioned earlier, that nickel corner position is going to be a starting position. About 70, 80% of the time, we're going to have nickel spots out there. Now, granted, I'm not sure if, I don't think Avonte is actually going to be the starter in nickel, but the fact that he's not the starter and he has been our starter all these years, like to me, that just talks to us about how great our corners are. I think our backup corners last year were Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, Mario Goodrich. You know what I mean? Like, who are these guys? They were all actually undrafted. All undrafted guys were our backups. That's what it was that we were doing. You know what I mean? It's like We ended up having Avante Maddox get hurt. We also had I'm drawing a blank. Kevin on the other
Bradley Roby.
that was from our 2017 team. Um dang it. What was his name? Hold on real quick. Ooh. Ah, I don't think he's actually on here because he didn't get any plays because he got hurt during the preseason. So I don't think he was on there with our plays or whatnot. But he went to Texas Tech. Zach McPherson. Here we go. Zach McPherson was also one of our nickel corners. He was supposed to be backing up Avante last year. He gets hurt in the preseason, so he misses the whole year. It was either his Achilles or his ACL, something like that. But he's out the whole year. Avante gets hurt at some point during the season. Now we're down to throwing Eli Ricks in there and nickel, who's a long kind of nickel. I'm like, bro, he looks like an outside corner. I don't think he plays nickel on a normal. And sometimes he looked like he did not play nickel on a normal. Like, that's what it looked like. So it was like having the depth that we have now, I think is a game changer, man, because you have Rodgers and also Keely Ringo, who Keely is now in his year 2. Last year he was drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. I can't remember exactly which one it was. I think it was the 4th round. But Keely was one of the starting corners on that Georgia defense that won the national championship. Matter of fact, he got an interception in the college playoff. Like, he extremely athletic, very big, very fast, like prototypical size. But he's very handsy. He likes to grab, leads to 36% of our flags. You know what I mean? It's like that. That's how he is. But he has a really great upside. But we're gonna wait and see if that actually leads to the success that we want. And he's been competing with Rodgers, like I said, with that outside corner spot. I actually think outside of Slay, Quinyon is our best corner outside of Slay for sure. I think Q has been working in the slot so much because Vic has mentioned once again, 70 to 85% of the time you're going to be a nickel or dime or whatever. He wants to get the best group of corners out there that he can get. And Ringo and Rodgers, not great in the slot. Rodgers is only about 5'10". He didn't play in the slot for the Colts. It was like, so you can't just pencil him in there because that's the body build. It looks like he can be a nickel, but that's not what he does. He's the outside corner. And then Ringo for sure can't play the slot. Boy, hips stiffer than oatmeal. He fast, bro, and he long, he athletic, but nah, the boy got stiff hips. That's why he ended up getting the grabbing. But so he definitely not playing nickel. But Q can do it all. Outside, inside, whatever you need, nickel, dime, whatever, coach. I got you. Outside guy, you need me to travel. You want me to press, you want me to play off man, whatever, I can do it. And he can do it. And sitting there going up against AJ, Smitty, you know what I mean? Like all camp, bro. And he's hard on himself. He hates when he gets beat. He's asking questions. He's figuring out what could I have done different. Talking to the receivers, hey, what made you do this? Or, how'd you do this? How is it best for me to play this whenever you decide you're about to do this? The dude is a student and he's trying to be great. And I love that. And then Brenton Covey just mentioned in one of his interviews, Brenton Covey is one of our slot receivers, and then mainly our punt returner. Hey, shout out to Brent. But he was mentioning that what he likes about Q is AJ Brown might beat him, let's say three straight plays or whatever. On that 4th play when he locks up AJ, he gonna let AJ know. It's like, and that's exactly what you need to be as a corner. I don't want my corners out there getting beat, and then it's a super bad pass, and he over there, yeah, lock you up, all of that. Like, he not that type of guy, but he is the type to where it's like, okay, yeah, you got me, but bump all that. Next play, what's up? What you gonna do on this one? You know what I mean? It's like, and he gonna talk his trash whenever he do his thing. So as a corner, you gotta have that mindset to where it's next play mentality. Because if you notice where the contracts are and wherever the money is going as a league, then that lets you know how important that position is. And these wide receivers getting paid. AJ over 30 million. 30 million a year? Wide receiver? That's crazy. But that's what they're doing now. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to expect him to get beat from time to time. Like I mean, AJ top 5 paid receiver in the league. I'm expecting him to beat Q. If you're not beating this rookie at all at any point, then why we paying you like that? You know what I mean? It's like he's supposed to be making Q better, and I think he is. And also him guarding Smitty. Hey, Smitty got the moves. So if you can guard Smitty in the slot, guard him on the outside, man, it's just gonna make you better. So, so I went on a little tangent, but the reason why I'm bringing all of that up is Q can do both. And so Q is actually going to end up being the best nickel option that we have. So it looks like Q is actually the starting corner outside of Slay. And then whenever we bump to nickel, bump to dime, Q was moving to the middle to play that nickel spot or to play one of those dime spots. And then now they're bringing in Rogers or Ringo who are competing for that other spot outside of Slay on the outside. It looks like Rogers is winning that. Ringo has had some flashes. He's played well, but he's also had moments where you can see, it's being reported that, okay, he grabbed on this play. It would have been a flag. Or he was beat on this play, like, oh, touchdown, whatever. But it's like, he's had his moments where he's been able to use his speed to, let's say he was beat a little bit, to come back, deflect the ball, whatever. Like he has his upsides, but to me, it's too much of this. Too much of a roller coaster for me to want him to be one of the starting outside guys. I think Rodgers will be a little bit more solidified there. Granted, Rodgers is only on a 1 year deal right now, so it's like we don't know what the future holds. But either way, this year I think he's the best person to be outside if we are going to move Q into the nickel spot. And so now we're looking at Slay, Q, and Rogers. And now our backups are Avante Maddox, who's been starting for us for years. Also, Ringo, having both of those guys as backups, and not to mention Cooper DeJean. You got three backups that honestly could start for other teams. And then these three backups, in comparison to the names that I just named earlier, where our backups were last year, where it's like, but night and day. It's night and day. Like this is the best collective I've seen at the corner spot, and I don't know how long, man. It's really exciting to see. And I think just some of the last times we had great corners were the times where we were in the Super Bowl. So just like we were talking about with the linebackers and with the safeties, it's like when our defense is good, we should be getting to the Super Bowl. It seems like we're going to always have a really great offense for the most part, especially with the pieces we got right now. But the defense is what needs to be solidified for us to truly be great. And that corner play that we have, and hey, knock on wood, we don't want Slay to, get old on us all of a sudden. And then he looking like Bradbury. You're like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? So that's not at all what we want. But if that even does happen, man, I'm still kind of excited. And more so, not even the fall off, but let's say if Slay get hurt, I mean, just being older, you never know, bro. Soft tissue injuries, things like that. The players that we can slide in now, like moving Q to the outside and letting Cooper DeJean or Maddox come in and play the nickel now. What? Like that sounds a lot better than what we were doing last year when Eli Ricks and Josh Jobe and Mario Goodrich and all these guys had to come in and you're like, wait, who is that? Wait, who's number 40 something in there playing? Like who's this guy? 37? What kind of number is that? When you get the numbers like that, bro, like you one of those dudes where it's like, oh, hey, take this one. You know what I mean, bro? I didn't choose that number, bro. No in the world, no one chooses those numbers. You got tossed that jersey. You know what I mean? So any guys getting tossed a jersey, that's not necessarily who I want out there on Sundays, bro. I just don't want you out there. No offense, but I don't think that's going to be the issue this year. So I am super excited. These corners are going to be great. I haven't talked a lot about Cooper, but a lot of that is because he missed about 3 weeks of training camp, just being hurt. He had an injury like right after not OTAs, but what's I'm drawing a blank, Caleb. What's after OTAs normally? Minicamp. After minicamp or whatnot, when they were just kind of training out on their own for a few weeks, he had a little injury, so he had missed the first 3 weeks. But he looks like he's back in full go. I'm hoping we can see him in his third preseason game this week. That'll be really exciting. But for the most part, they've been playing him just at nickel and at outside corner. So just kind of focusing there. I think a lot of people just assumed that he was going to be playing safety. I think a lot of that, if we're being honest, is because he's a white DB. It was like, that probably put him at safety too. I mean, dude's athleticism was kind of it was off the charts. He tested very well. I know he was coming off an injury or whatnot, but he tested very well in the 40, in the shuttle time, and all these other things and whatnot. So I think he is actually going to be pretty good. So I can't wait to see him, so that way we can kind of evaluate it a little bit more. But of course, we haven't been able to see him in game just yet. But yeah, that corner position, man, it's gonna be one that's gonna be happy to watch. Very excited. Um, Lastly, we got to talk about these safeties. Like I mentioned earlier, we're talking about linebacker and safety. Really good 2017, really good 2022. We in the Super Bowl both those years. Like I mentioned, I know Howie realized he kind of punted on them positions last year. We had coming into the starting linebackers last year was Reed Blankenship, and shout out to Reed. I like Reed. Like I said, we tried to get CJ. The contract situation went a little left. That was what it was, which made us pivot and go get Bradbury. It was just a domino effect that really really messed us over. So but last year we had Reed, and then we signed Buddy from the Steelers. His twin brother played for the Bills, but his brother got drafted. I'm not drafted. He signed with the Bears. Edmonds, thank you. Terrell Edmonds. Terrell Edmonds was our safety. Garbage. Garbage. We ended up trading Buddy over there to Tennessee to get Bird. So or Kevin Byard, excuse me. Yeah, so trading over there to get Kevin Byard, basically a swap, and I think a pick is what we sent over or whatnot. And Byard was cooked. So it was like what he was doing over there in Tennessee for all those years. He was Pro Bowler. I think he even had an All Pro year, maybe two. That wasn't the same guy we were getting. I mean, DBs don't normally get better as they get older, especially as you get closer to 30. Once you pass 30, they just don't normally get better because the receivers keep coming in faster, taller, stronger, quicker. And so as you continuing to get older, it's just not a great look. And then he ended up signing with somebody else this year, so I don't think he's done. But it wasn't a. He basically had a DC in Tennessee. He had another DC whenever he got here, and then halfway through the season, he gets a third DC. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a lot of different learning curves that you have. And then Hassan Reddick mentioned this at one point last year, where he was like, no one was really saying it out loud, but in the interview he had mentioned, he said it's hard. It's like we was learning one thing, now we're doing something different, and now we're doing this. And then it was reported that Matt Patricia was not able to make any changes to the defense that he inherited from Sean Desai. So now you got a guy calling the defense that he didn't even create and he can't make changes to. And you could tell guys were open. Like miscommunications. You could see it all towards the end of the year last year. It was terrible. The playoff game was the worst. Baker Mayfield was looking like shoot on John Elway, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, whoever you want to name. Patrick Mahomes himself. That is what he was looking like against us in the playoffs. And it was like, what do we do? Everybody's open. Nobody's being covered. Somebody's flaring out to the side. Oh, was that my guy? Was that your guy? Like, you could just see the confusion out there, and it was terrible. And so I don't 100% blame Byard, but I also don't think he was the same guy that we thought we were getting whenever we traded for him. First off, Terrell Edmonds was a really bad signing in comparison to what we thought we were going to get with CJ. So it's like moving to Terrell Edmonds was already and you knew that because Howie was like, all right. Once again, like I mentioned earlier about him trying to get in Darius Leonard, is like don't be stuck in your ways. I understand this was your plan initially, but once you realize it's not happening the way you wanted to, let's pivot. And he did. But granted, the pivot wasn't, it was a better move than Terrell Edmonds, but it still wasn't enough to move the needle. Reed still played pretty decently. But also you just never really know because you never know what all the schemes are and this and that. But the corners that we had were whack. So I think that also reflects on the safeties. Also, our pass rush wasn't the best. So we weren't getting as many sacks. We weren't getting as many pressures. So now the DBs are covering longer than expected or whatnot. So, like, it was just so. But now we own it this year. Because last year, Reed was going into his second year. He was already undrafted. He played a little bit in 22. I want to say he started about 4 to 6 games while CJGJ was hurt, but we hadn't seen him start a whole season, so we didn't know what to expect last year. Now Reed is coming into his third year, and he's definitely one of our starters. That was penciled in for sure. We knew he was going to be one of the starters. And I think, like I was mentioning earlier with Nakobe Dean, the mindset that they have. They call him Ghost. I think partly because he's white, but also he's flying around out there. You know what I mean? It's like he's always popping up in areas you're not expecting him to be, and that's because he's instinctual. So it's like the first interception he ever got. I think in the first game that he started was against the Packers, his rookie year. Aaron Rodgers, bro, he baits Aaron Rodgers into a pick. So he was disguising what he was doing, baits him into it, and he makes a huge play and gets an interception. You can even see Aaron Rodgers like, dang, like buddy got me. So like doing that as a undrafted rookie is crazy. So I know the type of dude that we're getting. Like, yeah, he's not the fastest, but like I said, his instincts are gonna always have him in the right spots, I feel. And on top of that, you have CJGJ back. This dude right here is a playmaker. All you're hearing throughout training camp is him being in the right spots, him hitting dudes, him bringing the swagger, like bringing the entertainment, bro, like bringing that dog mentality. Nick's always preaching dog mentality. That is the type of guy he is. What you need in a defense, especially in a city like Philadelphia, are Rough Riders, bro. Like tough, gritty. Like that's the type of field that you need. Like places like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Chicago, Philadelphia. Like those are the type of guys that you're supposed to have. And I think CJGJ is that guy. Like a tremendous talent. Whenever we had him on our team in 22, he led the league in interceptions. It was a tie, but it was 6 interceptions. He missed 6 games. Bro missed 6 games and was tied for the interception lead. Like this is what we're getting. My fear is once again, like I say, he missed 6 games. I don't like that. Last year he only played 2 games. I don't like that. He played 3, but he said in that third one, which ended up being a playoff game, he ended up getting hurt again. So it was like he didn't really play. But I just think, man, if he can stay healthy, that combination of him and Reed Blankenship is gonna work magic. Not to mention Sidney Brown. Like I wish Sidney Brown would have played a lot more early on instead of throwing out Terrell Edmonds, uh, Justin Evans at safety. How about we see what the rookie got? You know what I mean? Like let's see what he can do. And granted, I remember he got the pick 6 against Arizona Cardinals, bro. He looked amazing. He had a lot of flashes. He had some parts where he was like overexcited to go make plays, and he was end up like missing tackles from time to time. But also, he was a rookie. You give him a chance to make those mistakes because I promise you, he's gonna do better. So I'm excited to see what Sydney has. Granted, he tore his ACL towards the end of the year, and then it doesn't look like he's been able to be a participant at the practices. Reed was just mentioning in an interview yesterday that Sydney has been taking all the mental reps. Anytime he's asked a question in the uh, in the safeties room or whatnot, like any type of trivia question about what's going on, he always gets it right. He's always getting the mental reps. He's over there working on the side, like that's the type of guy he is. Like he's a dog. Like I don't expect for him to come back and then be like, oh man, like I don't really know what's going on. Like I don't think that's going to be the case at all. It's just a matter of does he have his legs underneath him, and I'm hoping that he will because he's a playmaker himself. So I got a feeling he'll start the season off on the pup list. So I think he'll probably be like take about 4 weeks until we'll be able to see him out there or whatnot. But what's great is Avonte Maddox has been playing a little bit of safety. He just got an interception in the preseason game against the Patriots once, which is cool. So it's like, excuse me. So we know we're still good to go back there with him. Bradbury's been decent back there, but you know how I feel about Bradbury if you couldn't tell already, so it's like I definitely don't want to see him back there. Um, but having Avonte Maddox who can play it, and then also having Sidney Brown, like I said, who hopefully will be able to come in and get those reps as well. It's like once again we got depth at that position, and the starters are great. So it's like it's a complete 180 from what we saw last year at the linebacker position and the safety position. You can't tell me we're not going to have an increase in our production. Like that defense is going to be solidified, and not to mention this being puppeteered by Vic Fangio himself. All we've been doing lately is trying to get disciples of Vic Fangio. Okay, somebody who kind of wants to run that schemes, kind of does this, kind of does that. But no, now we get it from the horse's mouth himself. Because Vic even mentioned it was like, well, yeah, there's a lot of like, people like to run my system, but I mean, I don't give out all my details. You know what I mean? Like, so like there's definitely things basically the student will never become the master. Like Vic will always be that guy. So and it's just great that we're gonna be able to have his schemes. And like with the players that we have, man, I expect to see one of our safeties to be like Justin Simmons whenever Vic was out there in Denver. Like he's gonna put people in positions, whether that's cover three a lot or cover four, with so either the one high safety or the two high safety. I feel like they're always going to be in position to make plays, especially with how great our corners are. So it's like it's everything kind of works in a tandem. If we can get that pass rush going with the defensive line, the corners are naturally going to be locking up a little bit more because we have better corners and we got better play over the top with the safeties. How can we not be a better defense? Like last year, I think we were like probably bottom five whenever it came to the defense. I'm not saying we're going to be top five, top 10, but we should at least be middle of the pack. And with the offense that we have over there on the other side, that's definitely going to put up points. Man, if we're at least halfway, like 15, 16, in between that range of 10 to 18, I would say, in between that range, then I don't see us losing more than 5 games. You know what I mean? Like 12-5, I think is very attainable. And I think that's very attainable every year if we're putting out this quality of a roster. So, man, that defense, I think the main guys who are really going to make the difference, Jalen Carter for sure. That's the best player on our defense. That's a given. The best player on our defense for sure. What Jordan Davis is going to do this year, because if we can stop that run and force teams to be in more predictable pass situations and let Vic just kind of, like I said, puppeteer and do his thing from there, because now we got you where we want you, I think that's going to be great. But also, I want to say Q is going to also be a big X factor because how Quinyon Mitchell plays, if he can lock down another spot on the other side of Darius Slay or just another receiver that's in the slot or whatnot, that's going to change everything. So I think Jalen Carter, Q, and then just like the increase with our linebackers, and you can't tell me we're not going to be good, bro.
Pretty exciting. I think there's a lot of guys to be excited about. Heading into the season. The Eagles have had a really interesting and fun camp. I was listening to Dave and Rube over at NBC the other day, and they talked about a lot of the position battles happening at camp, and some of the younger guys and even more established guys. They talked about Quinyon Mitchell going up against Devontae Smith every day, and talk about the two ends, Sweat and Huff going up against Mailata and Lane Johnson every day. Slay versus AJ Brown every day. I think those type of things are going to be, really helpful for those guys. Particularly the young guys. Playing against some of the best talent in the league every day in camp. I think it's going to be really good for the development of those guys. So definitely excited about what we're going to see on the defensive end. Looking for a big improvement. Vic Fangio, obviously a huge jump from the coordinator situation last season. So I'm excited to see what Vic can do with these guys too. I think Vic's working with more talent um, than what he was in Miami. Miami's front seven kind of a disaster. They don't really have any big guys, and so I'm really excited what Vic can do with this new group. But that being said, I think we'll go ahead and wrap here. We touched on pretty much every position, every player really we touched on. So I thought that was
Facts.
super thorough, and I definitely learned a lot. I hope you guys did too. If you did, definitely hit that like button, subscribe, guys. We're gonna be coming out with more content in a couple days. We'll probably be dropping the offensive intro, and then we'll even do like a season prediction. Heading to the first game against Green Bay. That game's in Brazil, right? Infamous.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Brazil
Yeah.
on a Friday night. Friday night game in Brazil is
Right.
crazy.
So that's gonna be exciting, guys. Yeah, leading up to that, we're gonna do the offensive intro, the season prediction, and then a couple days before that game, we'll have a specific kind of head-to-head matchup, and we'll be breaking down some of the schematics and what we expect to see in that game. So definitely subscribe so you can get those alerts on when we're dropping these videos, guys. But thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you guys soon.